Hello once again. Here we find ourselves about 2 full weeks before EBO3 Ultra Rare Collection, whatever, drops in the Japanese format, and we already have all three of the VRs, which is a very strange thing. They all got dropped like within the span of a week. I'm very confused why this happened, but it has happened. So we have a pretty complete picture of basically all the clans in this set. So I'm gonna take this. Like I was already planning on making a video on Ezel, and then Cecilia also dropped, and then Zerachiel also dropped. So it's like, well, I guess I'm just covering all of these at once now. That'll be nice and meaty. So let's get into this. I'm rather disappointed with two of the VRs, and one of them I really love. So fortunately, the one that I love is the one from the clan that I was thinking about building anyways. So you know, it all works out. But let's get into the first one for Gold Paladin, Incandescent Lion Blonde Ezel. So, how this works is it can Superior Ride from your hand if you have a Boomains and a Gareth on the board by Soul Blasting Criff. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2 or less, this unit gets drive -1 until end of turn. And when it attacks, you can call a card from your hand to Rearguard Circle. So, okay, so how difficult is that condition? Not at all, because Boomains here, when he's placed from hand on Vanguard or Rearguard, you can just ditch a card to search your deck for Gareth. So it's just like the condition is just have Boomains and have Ezel. That's all it is. And since Boomains is of course BNR, yeah, like there's no problems whatsoever with getting this off. Now, I hate this card's design. Basically anyone could tell you that one of the biggest problems with standard is that there's a big edge towards the first turn, the player who goes first, because they're getting gifts off first and there's no restrictive mechanics. The closest thing to a deck that prefers going second is Zanbaku. And like the ideal would be for more design that that improves the capabilities of the player who's going second. Like stuff like grade 1s with VNR effects that work on attacks. Stuff like what Tachikaze and Mega Colony got. But no, that's not what's happening. Instead, we're getting the ability to ride to grade 3 a turn early. So we're on grade 3 when our opponent is on grade 1. So that is not very fantastic design, and it's Excel too. So like Excel is already rather high rolling, but like this is even more so, and I'm not fond of this design at all. I think this is very unhealthy design. And as a card, this makes it very swingy. It makes going second even worse for this clan, and going first even better. Like I don't like gold Paladins are already kind of an RNG deck because of the nature of their calls. Though they're not really getting that many of those calls. Like the only ones we've actually seen are that Counterblast 2 promo and Vivian. So it kind of feels like they've abandoned their identity and decided to focus on the least interesting aspect of Ezel, but whatever. So its on-attack ability, of course, turns this into a multi-attack clan that actually has some draw power and some interesting combos. So like anything that is like when called by effect or when called from hand still works. So like Vivian, you call this on attack, you get it off, and then you get something else on another circle, like an Excel circle or behind it or whatever. Same with Boomains. You call it, you either use Gareth to complete the circle, or since Gareth itself can get plus 10k by paying Counterblast 1 when called by ability, you do that, get 2 rows going. Boomains is hitting 12, like if you're against another Protector Excel, that's hitting solo, Gareth is hitting solo, yada yada. Cuck by triggers, of course. Lop-Ear Shooters, more multi-attack that might not be very good at this point, but we'll see. Listener of Truth Dindrain goes off. You can like put it on an Excel circle, draw a card. So you get your thing back, and then it swings for 17, decent numbers, enough numbers to hit. So like there's all that sort of stuff, and there's more to be sure. There's that Sagramore we just got, which is Vanguard or Rearguard on place. You can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card, and then you call a card. So that also does the chain call sting in battle phase. So it's a multi-attack clan, but it kind of requires more specific cards, still gets screwed by damage triggers. Really, though, like, it has more draw power than any of the other multi-attack clans, so this might be the one that actually works out. But by the same token, it still has all the same weaknesses. And I'm not... and since you have to be spending these extra cards from hand to get your multi-attacks off, the draw effects are probably just going to be making sure that doesn't end up screwing you over. So, like, we don't really end up all that better off. And I don't think this deck is... I'm not very optimistic for this deck, and I don't want it to be good, because Ezel is stupid and unhealthy design. But the thing is, even if golds aren't good immediately, they have a second wave coming just 2 months afterwards. So it's like golds are the most privileged clan imaginable because they're getting 2 waves within 3 months. Like, it's actually kind of silly. And when they're giving them a card like Ezel that has a design like this, that is something that I'm very unhappy about now, because I really don't want the clan that's getting this sort of mechanic to be getting all this support. Because if this becomes a big player in the meta, like, it's going to be unhealthy existing as it is. But if they push Ezel into being something that's really good, then that's going to make this sort of thing even more unhealthy, and I'm not fond of that at all. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ezel. I don't think golds are going to fare any better than the other Excel clan, the multi-attack Excel clans have. But we'll see. Also, there's a bit of an issue with Soul, specifically with Vivian and Sagramore and Dindrain. Like, you're already spending a specific Soul to get Ezel off, and I don't know why they even did that. Like, I had an incident where when I first saw Ezel, I was like, okay, this is at the end of the Vanguard's attack, you rewrite it, right? Which would have been even more unhealthy, but, you know. I thought that was what it was, but no, it was just and when was that? The only once in a fight restriction by making it need to Soul Blast Criff made a lot of sense. But with this effect, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't, like, all this really serves to do is give it a worse matchup against Zanbaku. But you know what? I have no problem with it getting worse matchups against good decks, because, you know, I don't want this to be good because, as I've said, this design is really unhealthy and not something I want to see performing well. So very, very disappointed with that. Let's move on to Angels, which I'm not too pleased with either, to be honest. So Zerachiel. So my thoughts leading into the Zerachiel reveal was, okay, so we have Metatron, which is great, amazing advantage. Like, gives you additional trigger checks, and gives you healing, gives you a call from hand. And then we got Zerachiel revealed, which is basically Night Mist, basically Angel Feather Night Mist. Instead of drawing from their crappy 5-card toolbox, they draw from the infinite recesses of the drop zone. Slightly salty as a Grand Blue player to see this being given to other clans, but you know. So this is rather good. Gives them good advantage, good field sustain. But as we approach Zerachiel's reveal, the one card people were kind of depending on as the offensive pressure of the clan this year, Thousand Ray Pegasus. So the thought process was, okay, so Metatron doesn't care about whether damage is face up or face down, so it's great at unflipping the damage that it has to flip over for its Counterblast 2 cost. So obviously that'll apply to the rest of Angel Feathers, right? So that means that this Counterblast 1 cost on Thousand Ray Pegasus will be really easily spammable, and that's how we're going to get our offensive pressure. But that did not turn out to be the case. In fact, at this moment, Metatron is the only card that does any sort of damage zone pseudo unflipping. Every other card that's been revealed has either put cards into your damage zone face down, or has forced you to flip a card face down after you do your damage swap. So it is not looking very good for that aspect. So it means this as offensive pressure is not reliable. You can't rely on that at all. So I was really thinking, okay, so Zerachiel needs to be something really good offensively, because like even if they get their third gifter is a finisher along the lines of Deer, Skull, Flinger, Antlion, all that sort of stuff, all of those other Protect clans have other things to lead into it. Like in OCT, you have Imperials, Pressure, and now Torte to pressure your opponent with big numbers, big crit, get their hand down so that they can be killed by Deer. In Mega Colony, Spark Hercules obviously is happening 2 to 3 times a game, and whether you run Antlion or not isn't really relevant to the discussion of setting up those finishers, which Spark Hercules absolutely does. Grand Blue, of course, we have Baskirk with its big power, big crit, and Skull Dragons leading into like either more Skull Dragon finish or Flanger to guarantee the kill. And then we have Dark Regulars, which, while they don't really lead into it, on turn 4 they're just doing this No Life King thing constantly, and they're ending up with Bear and Doreen at big power to support it, so it's not just the 2 big Vanguard attacks. So, as you can see, it's not a one-man show with any of these finishers. There's multiple things in the deck working towards finishing the opponent. So, even if there was a really good finisher, Zerachiel also needs to do something good offensively to be able to set your opponent up to die, basically. But we did not get that. The Zerachiel we did get can ride itself from the damage zone at the effective cost of Counterblast 1, because Zerachiel itself has to be face up, and the card you put from your deck to the damage zone, it goes face down. So that's a CB1+1 for Protect. Okay. And VR effect of giving your front row plus 3k. Basic land condition, yes, of How Angels. Only during your turn, of course. So this does not make terribly good numbers. Like, if you have a perfect formation of triple Zerachiel, then you're going to be getting like +9 to your front row. That's going to be like, it's going to be swinging for 29 on each of those columns if they each have a booster. So you're going to be hitting 4 stages with perfect setup. And that's not terribly impressive. That's not enough. That is in no way enough. And with how Metatron works, you're not always going to be on Zerachiel. This is another big problem. And like, of course, you're like, there's nothing that actually helps set up that ride skill. Because as I said, basically everything that puts into your damage zone puts it into your damage zone face down. So since Zerachiel needs to be face up and there's no actual counter charge, nothing is helping you expand this very small toolbox. The toolbox has always been the worst in the game because it has a finite size, and is always very small. So there's no way to get into there. So really spamming that ride skill isn't a real thing. It getting around Zanbaku is irrelevant because the deck is exuding no pressure, and what Zanbaku cares about in this matchup is stopping Metatron from going off. And so because of that, they're just going to do the thing where they stop you from riding. Basically what they do against Kagro, against OTT, against Royals, against Dark Regulars, clans like that. Clans that really need to re-ride. And Zerachiel isn't a threat to them because like you're not really putting off pressure. You're like, in a perfect ideal scenario, you're putting off 4 stages, and you're not really plussing at all because your only plus you have access to in that scenario is Zerachiel and the Zerachiel ride itself. So that makes that relevant. Zerachiel, of course, does Regroll does help set up Zerachiels on your field. But you only have so many of these cards, and you need to actually draw into all of these copies in the first place, or see them in some form, to get this going at all. Just like, this is just like, let's look at what a single Zerachiel does provide. So a single Zerachiel will once counterblast 1. If you get into damage zone, which is hard to do than drawing into it, counterblast 1 to get a protect gift in hand, so +1. Pretty good quality +1. and then gives you 9k power spread. Okay. Now, I am a defender of King of Knights Alfred, but a lot of people do not like King of Knights Alfred and call him a rather bad VR. So let's compare that to what Alfred... Let's compare these two. Zerachiel is a +1 and 9k power spread. That can only be done once and is harder to get off. Alfred is a repeatable Counterblast 1 +1 that gives 15k power spread. Now, of course, there is a stacking with multiple Zerachiels on the board, of course, but that you still have to consider that the damage zone thing is hard to set up. You have no real way of setting it up out of just blind luck from your damage checks. And Metatron, but you want to ride another grade 3 first before Metatron, because Metatron only does its full effect that's really good when rode from a grade 3. And like, I don't know how much more I can really go into this. Like, are you getting the problem? Like the finisher grade 3 that they'll probably get likely won't be enough, because it'll have to be absolutely ludicrous to do enough, because there is nothing that is putting off offensive pressure to set your opponent up to die. So it'll be easy for your opponent to prepare for whatever finisher that is. And like, that's not good. That is not a good sign for this deck. And like, if it just ends up as a big advantage deck with card advantage and healing and stuff like that, well, you'll just lose to the long game, because now you're just OTT without OTT's ability to close games. And OTT without its ability to close games is not a very good deck. Like, OTT is very much strong because of its combination of offensive power and card advantage. And a lot of the small free things it does feeds into its offensive power, because you're helping guarantee your self-damage drive triggers. So, you know, I think I've explained this adequately enough. Angels are not looking very good. So from what I said at the beginning of the video, it should be pretty clear that the VR I was very happy with is Cecilia. Cecilia is freaking incredible. So it's Counterblast 1, retire one of your rear guards, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 2, shuffle your deck, and then if you have a grade 3 in your soul, you call up to 3 cards instead of 2, and 3 of your front rows get Power Blast 10k. So this is amazing. This is ridiculously good. The only potential problem with it is that you need 3 card slots on your field, and this is a deck that's generating a lot of card advantage. But this isn't terribly hard to do, because like, okay, so like, here's a hypothetical. You do your previous turn with main of trailing rows, have a full field, then you because this is what you're going to want to be first riding, because Cecilia only does its full thing once you have a grade 3 in soul, of course. And trailing rows lets you get up a field while also putting on some offensive pressure with his soul blast 1 gift and tokens plus 5k. So okay, the point is, you just intercept away your 2 front rows as long as your opponent isn't DP and knocking you off your intercepts, and then you retire one of the back rows, and now you have 3 slots to call things to. Cool. That's all you need. Basically, what this deck is turning into is a deck that will very, very rarely need to expend any hand on its field, in a similar capacity to what Granblue can do, except this is doing like, it's getting full fields more than Granblue does when it plays that way, and it's not like losing that before you get to intercept them away or anything. And like, I don't know, it's just really good. And there's like reliable draw power too. This is just looking very, very good. And that plus 10k to the front row, so you've already got 2 forces existing. So like, this minimum is going to be like 35k on each of those side columns, and then this center column is going to be swinging for 23, 28 at least. So all of those are demanding at least 2 cards. which is, you know, that's kind of really strong. That's going to burn through hands very quickly. And when you're doing it turn after turn after turn after turn, because the only things that cost Carablast in this deck are this and Irminsul. So there's going to be no problem spamming this. Well, that's just great. And then the retire matchups, which are half of the top decks right now, are really strong because like, say, so you're on Cecilia. They retired your whole field. Okay, I call Maiden of Trailing Rose, or I call Sylvia, or I call the elf that can kill itself to spawn 2 tokens. Okay, now I use Cecilia effect, kill the token, get 3 cards out of my deck. I have a field that is only missing 1 card for 1 Counterblast and 1 card on the field. That is ludicrously strong. Now, the problem matchup will, as it always is, be Zanbaku, because this is a deck that wants to re-ride. And until it does, it's not at full power. So Zanbaku can keep it away from that. So Zanbaku will likely have a strong matchup here, and Zanbaku will continue to be an anti-mana deck. But this, I see this like having, like, this will be very strong, of course, against Kagro and Shadows. And if Royals really end up being a force in the meta at all, they recover really easily from Exculpate. So those are like half of the top decks. Then OTT doesn't seem like it's a complete loss, because the answer to dealing with OTT as a force deck is being able to consistently belt out a bunch of attacks that can force out 2 cards or more, because then you're actually eating into their protect gifts at a frequent rate, and you can maybe actually push through and kill them. And once you have Cecilia up, that's no problem. And even on the Trailing Rose turn, you should be having 1 or 2 columns hitting those numbers. So you're making those numbers very easy while generating lots of card advantage to be able to live long enough to break through them. So basically, this is looking very, very good. And if there's a winner out of this set, it's going to be Cecilia. Also, Rebecca's cost became very trivial with this, and it's very good now for like helping you clear off your board, so that you can use Cecilia to its full power, and then you get a 10k shield back to hand as well. And this, that's like say you do your Trailing Rose turn, of course. You have Rebecca there somewhere, like say like Rebecca on the side with the plant token. That's an 18k column, so it's still hitting decent numbers. If you have that on force, that's 28. Good numbers. Good numbers. And then end of turn, you bounce it back to hand while killing a plant token. And you have this 10k shield in hand. And because you generate so much advantage for free, like for your plant token that you got for free into 3 cards for Carablast 1, it's actually ludicrous. So yeah, this is kind of really, really good. And as I said, if there's a winner out of this set, it's going to be this, because it has a good outlook against like half of the top decks. And a potentially even or better matchup against OTT. The OTT something that I really need to test. Like, it's less immediately obvious, but the other things are just fantastic. And basically shoo-ins, and the deck is just generally strong. So like, I very much expect this deck to be performing very, very well. Like, any way I look at it, like, it's very easy to set yourself up to take advantage of Cecilia. And just, it's so good. Especially the fact that Cecilia doesn't have to specifically retire a token. Like, the fact that it has that versatility. So if you don't have token generators, you can still do your stuff with Cecilia. That's fantastic. Yeah, and like, of course, the deck has the early game tempo stuff that like Shadow Paladin takes advantage of. So like, that gives it a really good edge. Like, that sort of thing, that very early game pushing with stuff like Sylvia and Irminsul being like very, very much like an elf, being very much live in the early game on your grade 2 turn. That's very, very good for the deck. Very glad that with the way that Neolector is turning out. And yeah, I think that's it. If you enjoyed this video, sorry I've been gone for so long, but be sure to subscribe. I've been a bit inactive, but I'm going to be getting daily content going again, which will include deck profiles and match videos. Some of that stuff may be buddy fight, so if you're into that, be sure to subscribe for that too. And also do stuff covering breakdown of all the Japanese results. That'll be coming tomorrow. This week's. I missed the last couple weeks, but now that we're in mini booster run format properly, I've got everything in line to cover that either tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. That'll be tomorrow. So with that said, this is Hunter Surge signing off.